Sportsmed students, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I can't believe we're here, to, less than 2 weeks left till seniors are done. And essentially, when the seniors are done, everybody else will do their project. We'll still have a couple things to do after that, but that kind of is going to wrap it up a little bit. So we have just a few things left, right? So we got lower body muscles that we're going to kind of condense a little bit. With the muscles, you're not going to have to worry too much about the functions too much, more just about, names and that sort of stuff. And then we have a little bit about basic injuries, and then a little bit about the evaluation process, and that's that. All right, so let's hop right into lower body muscles. So just like upper body, lower body's going to be the same way. So we're going to group them and go from there. So the first group we're going to talk about are the hip flexors. So you have 3 hip flexors, all right? So you have your psoas major, right, which is right here, and then you have your iliacus, and they flex the hip, right? So your psoas major actually originates on the lumbar vertebrae and inserts on the femur. Your iliacus is more in like your pelvic girdle, and then it inserts onto the femur. So they both flex the hip. And so these 2 muscles right here, these are your true hip flexors. Okay. Let's do this. Let's do extra credit number 1. Your psoas major originates on your lumbar vertebrae, right? That's extra credit number 1. So there's your first 2 hip flexors, and then you have this long muscle called your sartorius, right? A lot of people in class are always like, oh, Jacob Sartorius? And I don't know, he was before my time, I guess, obviously. So I guess people don't like him too much. So anyways, this muscle's huge, right? This muscle is long. It goes all the way from your pelvic girdle all the way down to the medial aspect of your tibia. It's nicknamed the hacky sack muscle because of its functions. So it flexes, externally rotates at the hip, and then it flexes the knee. So if you were to do that motion, it looks like you're hitting a hacky sack. Okay, great drawing, I know it. Thank you. All right, so there's your sartorius, and those are your 3 hip flexors. Next, we're going to move on to your gluteal muscles. So you have 3 glutes, maximus, medius, and minimus. So your gluteus maximus, big muscle, right? A lot of muscle mass here. Originates on your sacrum and your pelvic girdle, so it does extension, abduction, and external rotation of the hip. Glute med and glute min, so these guys, they both have the same functions. Okay, so these are more lateral, and that's why I include these pictures over here, because they're really more lateral than posterior. So your gluteus medius and gluteus minimus, see the minimus is a lot smaller than the medius. So gluteus medius does internal rotation and abduction, and so does the gluteus minimus. Okay, so and it goes from superficial to deep. So superficial is gluteus maximus, deep to that is gluteus medius, and then deep to that is gluteus minimus. Something that's deep to all the glutes this is the muscle group. Okay, so that's the deep hip rotators. And you only need to know 1 muscle, right? So all these are deep hip rotators, but you only need to know 1 muscle, and that is your piriformis, okay, which does external rotation at the hip. Piriformis is good to know. You guys stretch it out a lot. You guys roll it out a lot. That's piriformis. So real quick, when you're labeling, I just want you to know, all right, here, I'll go ahead. Look, I'll do it for you real quick. All right, so these are your deep hip rotators. This is your piriformis. And this is your glute min. This is your glute max. And this is your glute medius. Okay. So there's 1. That's posterior view. Anterior view. So you got your hip flexors. Okay. So this one is your hacky sack muscle, your sartorius. This is your psoas major. That's actually one of my favorite muscles, the psoas major. And then you have your iliacuses. Okay. Moving right along. So we're gonna skip the ligaments of the knee and we're gonna go straight to your quads. All right, so your quads, you have 4 quadricep muscles, okay? So we're just gonna go, so all your quadriceps, okay, look, all your quadriceps have a similar function, which is extension at the knee, right? They all extend at the knee. All your quadriceps, they come into one, like they come down into one tendon right there, and they insert onto your tibial tuberosity. So let's go through this. Let's go through each muscle. So the most superficial muscle you have, and kind of the longest, so is your rectus femoris. So this is let's do extra credit number 2. Only quad with 2 functions. So it actually flexes the hip and extends the knee, right? And that's your rectus femoris is the only quad that has 2 functions. Next, deep to that, to your rectus femoris, is your vastus intermedius. See, look, when you compare the two, right, there's one. Look, this one's way shorter, okay? And it's also like more tendinous than it. But that's the vastus intermedius. And then you have your vastus lateralis because it's lateral. And then you have the vastus medialis because it's on the medial side. Okay, rectus femoris, vastus intermedius, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis. Let's see here. Okay, so there's the quadriceps. Next, I want you to look. So we're looking at the lateral aspect of the body. Looking at this right there. That's called your IT band, your iliotibial band, which inserts on your lateral tibia on Gertie's tubercle. And then you have right here a group of muscles right here. So this is your hip adductors, right? To adduct the hip. Next group of muscles we're going to talk about is your hamstrings. So how many hamstrings do you have? 3. Okay. Just a little bit of extra information. Your ischial tuberosity. All your hamstrings originate on this bone right there. On your pelvic girdle. Okay, so first you have 1 lateral hamstring and 2 medial hamstrings. So your first, let me back up too. Okay, so all your hamstrings have the same functions. They all extend at the hip and flex the knee, all 3 of them. Okay, so first you have your biceps femoris, which is lateral. Okay, semitendinosus and semimembranosus. So semitendinosus is medial and superficial, where your semimembranosus is medial and deep. And also, look, and this one is thicker, and this one is slimmer. Okay, so look, take a look. So here's your semitendinosus right here. See, it's long, kind of skinny. Semimembranosus is long, but it's also thicker. Okay, so there's your hamstrings. So you have your biceps femoris, which is the only lateral one. And then you have your semitendinosus and semimembranosus. They're both medial. Your semitendinosus is superficial and slimmer, and your semimembranosus is deeper, but it's also thicker. Okay, and they all extend at the knee and flex at the hip. Okay, there's a review page. You could do that review page. And now let's talk about, or actually, you know what, let me do this review page with you. Okay, so let's number these. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, oh, oh. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. All right. So number 1 be your iliacus. Number 2 is your sartorius. Number 3 is, because it's lateral, vastus lateralis. Number 4 is your psoas major. Whoa. I combine my letters sometimes, you know. So all this, like, even if you're not going to go into anything medical, knowing the functions of your muscles it's important. You could do a lot with it, right? You could, after this class, you could do all kinds of different weightlifting and just because you know the functions, you'll be able to work out certain muscles. Just because you know the functions. 5, so there's your vastus lateralis, or medialis, because it's medial. And then your vastus intermedius. Oh, we didn't even do this one. Oh wait, yeah, I did. That was number, oh no, I didn't. So look, this one right here that we skipped is number 7. And that's the rectus femoris. Okay. So number, oh man. Can't do 2 number 7, so we'll call that number 14. All right. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so number 7 is glute med. Number 8 is glute max. Number 9 is biceps femoris. Now, if you remember, biceps means 2 heads, so that's all that is. So the superficial medial skinnier hamstring is your semitendinosus. 11 is glute min. 12 is piriformis. And then 13 is your semimembranosus. All right, so there's a quick review. And then we're going to go to crust muscles. Okay, so you have 3 groups of crust muscles. So you have an anterior crust muscle group. So if you were to contract your anterior crust muscle groups, you would feel that it does dorsiflexion and inversion. Okay, lateral crust definitely does eversion. Posterior crust, so you need to know these 2 muscles. Okay, so superficial, this is the one that everybody can see, is your gastrocnemius, and then your soleus is deep, and they both do plantar flexion. So look, you just learned all the lower body muscles in one day. All right, so there are the muscles. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you soon.